Alright, well, welcome back everybody. This is Malik. Sorry it's been a while since I've been able to post anything. December was a really busy month with teaching and holidays and all that stuff. But I had a student ask me for a particular video that they wanted to see. They wanted me to use Nessus to do a vulnerability scan on a network. Take a look at the vulnerabilities that Nessus returned, especially if one of them was a CVE return, and to be able to use Metasploit to search that CVE to see if there were any vulnerabilities on it, and if so, to use the exploit or the auxiliary or whatever it returned to hit that box. So what I have is I do have Nessus installed on my Server 2008 box. It could have been installed on Kali. It could have been installed on Windows 7, Windows 10. It really doesn't matter. Since I'm only running the trial version, I went ahead and just installed it on Server 2008. I am running my Kali 2016.2 box, which I love. And I do have my XP and my Windows 7 box open at the same time. So I'm running 4 virtuals here. And we're just going to scan that entire network to see what we get returned. So Nessus is a great vulnerability scanner. It's also an incredibly expensive vulnerability scanner. It's about $2,200 a year. My work network, yes, I will have the Nessus. I will pay the $2,200 a year for the scanner across my entire network. I'm not going to pay $2,200 a year to play around with it and scan my own virtual machines. So feel free to download this thing from Tenable. You have to register to get a evaluation code and play with it for 7 days. After that, go ahead and uninstall it, unless you want to pay the $2,200. But it's a great scanner. It's one of the best scanners out there. They do make a really nice one for Kali called OpenVAS. I don't like the interface is good, but it's a whole lot cheaper than $2,200 a year. So anyway, back into Nessus. When you open it up, again, it works through a browser window. So you'll see at the top, localhost port 8834, which is the default port it runs over. I'm just going to set up a new scan. There's a bunch of different types of scans we can run, from basic scans to host discovery scans, malware. There's some that you cannot run unless you have the full version, such as PCI networking and policy compliance. So we're just going to do your typical advanced scan. Now you do have to name it, so I'll just call this vulnerability scan of the 10.40 network. It's going to be saved into my scans folder, and I'm going to put in my targets. Of course, this could be one machine or it could be a range. You can even put insider notation. But I'm just going to do, let's see, 199 is my lowest box, and 215 is my highest box. Now, you don't have to save the scans. There's some extra stuff you can go over here too, like schedules and notifications and what you want to discover, whether you want to turn on pinging. If you want to test the machine that Nessus is installed on, I'll keep that on just so you can see it. And then the type of ping methods, TCP, IMP, UDP is turned off by default because it definitely slows it down. If you want to scan for printers, if you want to do a wake on LAN, what type of port scanning you want to do, unscanned ports is closed. If you want to do SSH, SMNP, SYN, and again UDP, we're just going to keep the defaults inside of here. And again, there are credentials if you do have to pass off certain credentials, such as cloud services and things like that. And again, we're not going to do compliance ruling, but if you want to do particular compliance ruling, and if you have plugins installed, well, you can turn those on too. But I'm just going to go ahead and save my scan. So now I can run it at any time. And I'm going to click the launch button. So you'll see the last modified date will change, and you'll see that the scan is now running. I typically don't stay in this window. I like to see what's going on. So if you just double click the scan, it will take you in, and you can already see it's found 3 machines. It should find one more here shortly. It hit the 215 machine incredibly fast. That's because that's the machine it happens to be sitting on. It just came back with informationals. The 199 machine, the 202 machine, and it just found a 205 machine. And again, you'll see down at the bottom, the percentage complete that it is, and they will adjust. Of course, what we're looking for are criticals. We're looking for highs. We're looking for mediums. Mediums are kind of hit and miss. Low is very rare. You're ever going to be able to do anything with it. Informationals is just informationals. You can't do anything with those. We really want to see criticals and highs. Now, most of my network is pretty secure, even though they are virtuals. I secure them. I do patch them. So don't get your hopes up every time you see a high. It doesn't mean that that's going to work. There is a very good chance that that high is not going to work. It just means that there is a chance it is going to work. But when you get into Metasploit, Metasploit is going to give you the percentage, whether it's excellent or great or good or fair or normal, which means the chance that that exploit is going to work. So just because something is high doesn't mean it's a definite shoe-in for you to take over that box. Okay. So as we start looking through here, we can see actually a huge vulnerability. Here's a 199 machine where we're dealing with actually 2 criticals. We're dealing with 2 highs and right many mediums here, and we do have some lows. On the 15 box, we actually have a medium. On the 202 box, we have a critical. On the 215 box, we only have informationals. So we can go into details about this, even during the scan. And you see 2 of these are finished, 2 of them are still working. But we can go into them, and we can see the criticals, we can see the highs, and there's all the informationals. So this is the 199. So if you want a little bit more information on it, again, it will give you the OS over here. So this particular critical one here for XP Service Pack 2, XP Service Pack 3, and XP for Embedded. If I want to know a little bit more information about it, affected by remote code execution and the server service due to improper handling of remote procedure calls, as unauthenticated remote attackers can exploit to execute arbitrary code with system privileges. It does notice that the port is open that it needs. As we start to go down here, you will see exploitable with Metasploit, Canvas, or Core Impact. As it finishes up, it will even return things like the CVE number. So 2008 4250. So that's probably the one we're going to end up using. There's the Microsoft code 08067, and even the CERT code and the CWE codes. Typically we use the CVE codes if we have one. Let's go back and see what else we got. There's another critical one on the server message block. May allow an attacker to execute arbitrary code or perform a denial of service. So if you want to take the machine down, this may be one you want to run. And there's multiple CVEs for this one. All of them put out in 2008, but this is the newest one, 4114. That's the one you'll do your search for. Typically, you're not going to run this if you want to gain access to a box, because this is a denial of service. This will take the machine down. Most of the time, that's not what you want. Now, this one's 100% done. That's the 215 box. Microsoft Windows Server 2012 R2. Okay, now, see, this is returning that this vulnerability is for Server 2012. I will tell you that this box is not Server 2012, but typically if it is vulnerable to 12, it is vulnerable to boxes prior to 12. And all these are medium. There's a security update for the SAM. As we all know, the Security Account Manager and the local security authentication to perform a man-in-the-middle attack to intercept communications between the client and the server. Okay, now it will tell you down here that there was a solution to it. Microsoft has released a set of patches for Vista 2008-7, 2008 R2, 2012 8.1, RT 8.1, 2012 R2, and 10. So the chances of you hitting this is going to be rare. There was a patch. So if somebody has patched their system, this is not going to work. Even though it was medium before the patch, not after the patch. So we're hoping that they've installed the OS and they are not patching their system. Okay, 202 does have a critical inside of there. Let's see what that one is. DNS resolution, again, has released a set of patches. Now when this thing came out, it was highly critical, so there was probably a hot fix for it. So it went all the way back to XP and goes all the way up to 2008 R2. So it all goes back to if you've done your footprinting, if you've done your recon, you should know if they're networked, if they are running Windows Update, because you've scanned for ports, whether you use GFI LandGuard or whatever you've used, you should know whether Windows updates are turned on or whether they're controlled by a group policy or if they're turned off. Again, we can't really stick with if they're turned off because it may be off on the host, but they may be using something like SCCM to push updates. So there will be a machine somewhere that are accepting updates and pushing those updates out on behalf of a server. If they're on, though, you do have to watch out for these, as Microsoft has released a set of patches, because it may mean that it won't work. Okay, again, I know what my machines are. I am pushing updates. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this one. Even though Microsoft has released a set of patches, this is where you want to keep up on top of security, because even though they released a set of patches, the patches did not work. There are still vulnerabilities with them. You have to stay up on top of what patches actually worked and what patches didn't. Other than that, it takes trial and error. Okay, so again, remember that CVE number. It's 2008 4250. Okay, and we can try some other ones too. So that's the overall scan of these machines. Again, they're still working on some scans here. We may be able to find some others. You just let the things work. Again, depending on how big your network is, how many hops away the machines are from you, these things can take anywhere from 5 minutes to 20 to 30 minutes to do complete scans on the machine. But while it's running, we're going to take a look at Metasploit and take a look at one of these vulnerabilities here on this 199 box. And if we get some others back, we'll take a look at those too. Alright, so let me log in here to my Kali box, and I'm just going to go ahead and launch Metasploit the easy way. This will start my database and everything else. My database has already been up and running, and I got dropped to the MSF prompt. Now we want to do a search for that vulnerability to see if Metasploit actually has either an exploit or an auxiliary inside of their database that we can use to exploit the box. So you simply, from the MSF prompt, you simply type search, and then you type in the number. Well, so ours was a CVE, and it was, what was it, 2008, which is the year it was put out, and 4250. Alright, and it came back great. Now, I will tell you, if you ever see this one, it's a very high chance it's going to work. One of the most used exploits inside of Metasploit. The 08067 Netapi. Now there was another one on another box, just so you can see it. I'm going to search CVE, I think it was 2008-4114. This one was for the Server 2008 box. First off though, it's an auxiliary, which is fine, but it's a denial of service. It uses the server message block, and basically it's a data, a buffer underrun. The rank of it is normal. There is a chance it will work. Look at the rank of this one. It's great. There's a very high chance it will work. Okay? So it really depends on what box you want to hit. But again, think of it this way. If you're scanning an entire network, it really doesn't matter what box you hit. You want to get into whatever box is completely open, because from that box you can usually daisy chain to other boxes. Try it, see if it works. You are going to try exploits, and although it may send the payload successfully, you may not get the results you want because they've patched it. It becomes a trial and error. So we're going to see if this Netapi one works. So I'm just going to type use exploit Windows SMB MS08_067_ Okay. Now I need to show my options. I do need a remote host, a remote port, and the pipe. Typically you can keep the pipe browser unless it doesn't work. So I need to set my R host, and I know what the IP address is by the Nessus scan. The one that had this problem was this machine here, 1044.199. 1044.199. I always show my options again to make sure I got everything. And I do. Perfect. So all I have to do is run the exploit. Okay. It started the reverse TCP, automatically detected it, found out it was Windows XP Service Pack 3. Again, I could have ran another one on my Windows 7 or Windows 8 box, but both of those have been patched. The XP box has been patched too, it just didn't work. It sent the stage, and it dropped me to the interpreter prompt, which means the exploit worked. Now, if not only did it work, but I'm logged into the XP box as administrator, but the exploit automatically bumps me to system. Now I could have easily done that myself with a command, but I am already system. So I can pretty much do whatever I want to on here. I can list things. That's the directory I'm in. There's a present working directory. I'm in the System32 folder by default. Of course, I can change directories all I want to. Now I'm just in the Windows directory. I can do things like screenshots, I can't do that one inside of here, not yet. Oops. I can. There we go. There's my screenshot, which is automatically saved to my root folder. There it is right there. Of course, it's just on their standard old box. There's nothing special about it because it's it's just there. But there's my screenshot. Maybe you can catch them doing something. I can do things like, you know, start the key scan by doing a key scan underscore start to where I can now track everything they type in. But I pretty much own this box. So by owning the box, probably the first thing I'm going to do is run my hash dump. Since I am system, I can get their SAM file. And there's their SAM file. Administrator, guest, help assistant, support, any users. And of course, I would take these, I would compare these hashes, the LM or the NTLM hashes, to find their passwords. I can create myself another account, use a net user. Again, not much I can't do here. Oops, I can't do it from here. Sorry, I got to actually pull a shell from them. There we go. Now I can do it. There you go. But I can create myself one. Oops, can't do that from here. If I just do a net user, I get to see everybody there. But if I do a net user, username, password, and add it, now if I do a net user, now I have an account with a password, a local account by the way, with a password that I can use for a backdoor to get back in whenever I feel like it. So this requires no user intervention from the user itself. Again, you can find this exploit in 7 and in 8, even other versions of server like server 2008, but if they're patching them, those patches actually worked. It just didn't hold with XP. So again, you're going to need to do some playing around. Let's see if this is it's still kind of working on some of these machines. Take a look at the 202. Is the vulnerability, and that again release a set of patches. Again, that went all the way back to XP, but there's the CVE right there. We'll take a look at that one there in just a minute just to see how that one works. And just so you know, the 202 box is my Windows 7 box. So that pretty much let us walk into that. So I'm going to go ahead and back out of here. Oops, I got to quit out of the shell. And then I can back out of my interpreter command, or exit out of my interpreter command, and I'll go ahead and just quit that one. During my exploits, I actually like to quit all the way back out before I launch the console again, just to make sure that everything's clear, there's no open session, even though I can run multiple sessions at once. Well, let's just take a look at this one. Again, there's the CVE. Just because there's a CVE does not mean there's an exploit written for it. But let us see if this one does have it. Search CVE 2011 0657. Okay, and it does. Now, this is the one that we looked at. It's a rank of normal, and it's a buffer underrun, so it is a denial of service. Okay, but let's see if it works. Here's my box. Let's go ahead and use it. Use auxiliaries the same way. use auxiliary, DOS, Windows, LLMNR, MS11 underscore 030 underscore DNS API. Oh, failed to load. Type something wrong. Oops, that's because I always spell auxiliary wrong. Sorry about that. Gotta learn how to spell. AUXILIARY. There we go. I'm going to show my options. The remote host is not the remote host I want. That's not the target address. So I got to set my remote host to that Windows 7 box, which, if I'm not mistaken, is 202. Let me make sure. Yes, 202. 1044.202. 1044.202. Port 5355, we'll keep it there. And we're going to see if this one works. Again, this is a denial of service. It should crash the box. Send in the IPv6 and the IPv4 to 1044.2. It will tell me default. The service will restart automatically twice. In order to ensure it's completely dead, wait up to 5 minutes and run it again. But it did execute correctly. Okay. Well, there's my Windows 7 box. My Windows 7 box seems to be running just perfectly fine. Okay. Well, I can try to run it again. I was able to send it, but it's not doing anything to it. Why? Probably because the machine has been patched. So it only had it was normal, it wasn't great. So when you start playing around with these vulnerabilities, you may come upon a bunch of them. But if you see low or normal, try them out. There is a very good chance though they are not going to work. Again, it even tells you here to test it, run it again. Wait up to 5 minutes, run it again. You shouldn't be able to run it. It shouldn't be able to find the machine. Then you know you've actually completely killed the machine because it's not responding. In this case, I can let it sit here. It doesn't do anything. So again, Yash, what you were looking for when you talked about it, how to look for CVEs, you can search the database, the exploit database, which is inside of Iceweasel, or depending on what version you have, if they switch to the Firefox. But I'm glad they brought Iceweasel back. There is a link right up there at the top. It says exploit database by default. That is the exploit database to Metasploit. And there is a search where you can do a search for any CVE that you get. You just type the CVE in that box. It will come back with everything that's inside the Metasploit database. But I typically search mine straight from the command prompt. So there we go. We have found some vulnerabilities. One that actually looked like it should be okay but didn't work. 215, that is my Server 2008 box. We got a couple of mediums here, but most of these are not going to have a CVE attached to them because they're really just issues with policy settings. Oops, didn't mean to go all the way back out. There's a critical one there, and that's CVE. Again, if you take a look at it, it's the LLMNR, kind of the same one, but it works for 202. Again, if I quit out of here, again, I like to clean up my console. we'll just take a quick look at this one, and I'll let you guys go. But you can see how some vulnerabilities will work. If they work beautifully. But if they don't work, yeah, you just get garbage. So I'm going to search CVE 2011-06-57. Again, kind of the same one there. It's the DOS, but we found this on 2 machines. So now we got it on the 202 machine, the 1044-202 machine. So why don't we just try it on that one? Auxiliary, DOS, Windows, LLMNR, MS11 _ 030 _ DNS API. Show the options. Set our host to 1044.202. Show the options. There it is. Okay. This is the 1040.202 box. And just to show you, that's my 215 box. Sorry about that. I want to see my 215 box. 0614. That's the vulnerability I wanted to see. This one's not going to work on either box. We have 2 boxes that have this. It's not going to work on either box that we hit it with. Let me kind of clear out my console again. This is the CVE I actually wanted to search for. That's it. CVE, because you're going to see some things like this show up. 2016-0128. It drops you back to the MSF console, which means it's been pulled out of the database. It will happen. Even if I go into Iceweasel and I go to the exploit database and I take a look at the CVE 2016-0128. Oops, I have to prove I'm not a robot first. Everything with a storefront. And I'm going to search. And you will see no results. This could happen for a couple of reasons. Either the database has not been updated, but this is 2016, that's not the case. They keep the database pretty well up to date. It's been pulled for whatever reason. So just because the vulnerability returns does not mean it's going to be exploitable anymore. So we have to do our footprinting, we have to do our recon, we have to do our vulnerability, and we have to take a look for exploits that are actually out there and at a decent chance of it working. So, alright, so that is how you use Nessus to run scans, how to find out your vulnerabilities, how to use Metasploit to see if there is an actual vulnerability out there, what the chances are of that vulnerability actually giving you what you want, and if you do find one that gives you what you want, like in the case of the Netapi, that again almost always works. We got a command shell, we were in a system, we could do whatever we want to, set ourselves a back door, and that machine is ours, and now we just daisy chain off that machine into other machines. So there we go, guys. So hope you enjoyed it. Hope to get some other ones up here very, very soon. There's right many that I want to get up, and just be on the lookout. Again, if you like the videos, just subscribe to the channel, like the videos, give us a thumbs up, and I will see you guys around soon. So until then, thanks. Peace out.